Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And in this preview video, we'll be looking at a side that I enjoy watching a lot. They've won the IPL twice before, and that franchise is the Kolkata Knight Riders. I thought KKR did a good job in the mini auction, especially considering the budget they went in with. Before the auction, they made two smart signings in Lockie Ferguson and Shardul Thakur. And the reason why I thought they were smart signings was because you saw from the previous season, I thought KKR's game plan with the ball the previous season was to dismantle the opposition within the first 15 overs. And even if they give runs at the death, then they won't be chasing too many. And with the additions of Lockie Ferguson and Shardul Thakur as well, you've got two bowlers that can complete that attack. You've got a bowler that can bowl at the death in Lockie Ferguson. And for Shardul Thakur, a very gutsy cricketer that can bowl in all phases of the innings, and so can Lockie Ferguson. I don't know how many games he'll be available for though, because I think he is still currently nursing an injury, and they'd want him available as soon as possible if he won't be available straight away, because they've got especially a confirmed injury in Shreyas, who will be ruled out for at least the first half of the competition, and a huge blow for them from a captaincy perspective and as a batsman. And I heard on Ashwin's channel, I don't know if it's just a rumour, but Nitish Rana seemed to have suffered an injury scare. I don't know whether he will be playing from the start or not, but I think he should be. He is the captain of this side, and he's had middling seasons for KKR, but he has got good contributions. And they didn't really have any other player that they could have gone in terms of a captaincy option, because Sunil Narine captained the Abu Dhabi Knight Riders recently in the IO20. They won one game out of 8. Would you want to give the captaincy to Andre Russell despite the fact that he can't captain? I'm not sure you would. So they only had one choice, and that is a player that we don't know, or we haven't seen him captain in top flight cricket before. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes with the bat this season and as captain. I think he'll still go okay with the bat, but as a captain, it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Like I said, they will be missing Shreyas Iyer, the batsman, and Shreyas Iyer, the captain, this season as well. And he's been in great form for India in ODI cricket and in Red Bull cricket, and the persistent back injury has once again meant that he's been ruled out for at least the first half of this competition. He missed the first test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy because of that as well, and it's flared up here. And he's rejected surgery, which should have kept him out for 6 months in a bid to be fit for the World Test Championship final and the World Cup in October, especially the latter of which I think he'll be essential at number 4. So I wish him all the best. And he scored 413 runs, I think, in the previous season. And I think a facet of his game that I've been impressed with is his captaincy. When the Capitals, when the Delhi Capitals were the Delhi Daredevils, they struggled to compete even with the kind of players that they had. And it only took a change of name, because you knew with the same players, if they kind of got... If they started off from a blank slate, things would improve, and it has more than improved for the Delhi Capitals. And I thought Shreyas Iyer was the captain that led them into that transition and to where they are now. So he's a brilliant captain as well, and he would be a great miss for KKR for however long he's out for in this season. A key bowler for them last season was Umesh Yadav. He had a fantastic season. And like I mentioned in my Gujarat Titans preview video, I thought him, Prasidh Krishna and Mohammad Shami, bowlers like those, benefited from the services on offer in the previous season. Even in 200 games, if you hit the right areas, the ball did move quite a lot. And you've got bowlers like those three who were outstanding in the previous season. And I think you will get, or you could get, similar kind of conditions in this IPL as well, especially if you're playing in a 1K stadium, for example, in the odd game. And I think in the Eden Gardens, the ball does move around at the start as well, despite the fact that nowadays it is considered to be more of a batting-friendly venue. Although in the recent games in the Eden Gardens, I think that there's seen a different side to it, where especially I think when India played against the West Indies and New Zealand about a year ago now, even though there was a lot of dew on the outfield and it was you thought it was conducive for batting, the surface was conducive for bowling slower balls. So who knows, we may see a different side of the Eden Gardens this time around. But I thought Umesh Yadav last season was fantastic, and if he gets the conditions here, he will be fantastic once again, I'm sure. An economy rate of 7.06 over 12 games for a bowler that's usually quite expensive. He does go for wickets and he does go for runs as well. I thought it was a brilliant season from Umesh Yadav, and he set the tone from the very first performance against CSK. Amidst the injury concerns, you'd want especially two players, two titans of the T20 game, to remain fit for the entire competition. Not only as a KKR fan, but I believe as a fan of the IPL and a fan of T20 cricket. You'd want both Andre Russell and Sunil Narine to remain fit for the entirety of the competition. In the last few years, there has been injury concerns for KKR. They've had a fairly thin squad, and things haven't unravelled much in the previous seasons. And even though there are a few injury concerns this time, I don't think things will unravel as much as it seems like it would. But two T20 legends in Andre Russell and Sunil Narine. First, Andre Russell. I think we've seen what he's done in the IPL, especially this season in 2019, where he scored 500 runs in a lone effort to try and win games for his team. And at one stage, they were losing 5 games in a row. And Andre Russell, in a lot of those games, would be the player who, even though he was suffering with wrist injuries at the time while he was batting, he still hit monstrous sixes and got his side close, and at times even won them the game. So it's been the case where he's had to exert himself a lot, especially in the 2019 season. A good season in the previous one as well, but the 2019 season was just a different level. And I think with the injury concerns of his, of course, and the fact that he hasn't been too consistent off late, they wouldn't want to leave him to do too much. Which is why in my 11 you'll see that I've actually played him at 5 as a pure batsman, and I think they could play David Rees at 6, who could offer a few overs as well, and I'll get to that when I go through the 11. And you've got a Sunil Narine, who, with the ball, we've seen that he has been a force in the IPL for so long now. 152 wickets in 148 games, and also a batting strike at 162.7 to go with that. I don't think they can rely on him on the bat, especially now. I thought that was more so in 2017, but you've seen in the Bangladesh Premier League, for example, where he has given the odd contribution. And I think with those two being fit, it will be the key for them. So far, they've generally remained fit throughout the season, especially Sunil Narine. And even if Andre Russell has missed games, you've seen the resurrection by KKR in IPL 2021. No one thought they'd kind of come back in the second half of the IPL and do what they did and reach the final. And had they won that game against CSK, you've got a CSK who's considered the most consistent franchise in the IPL, getting to the playoffs the most times. And yet them and KKR after the 2021 season would have been level on trophies. And I think you would have started to bring KKR into that mix as well. So I think it's a franchise that I enjoy watching a lot. And I feel bad for them because of the injury situation, because I actually think they've had quite a good auction. I rate the coach very highly, and I wish that he soon comes to the Indian side as well. And I may or may not have said this already in this video, but to my knowledge, this may be the first top flight gig that he has kind of been part of. And you'd think it would be a slightly harder gig than he anticipated, but I do think that things aren't as catastrophic as they seem. And with the first 11 I've got for them, they could actually do something in this competition. Even if they don't qualify, they could certainly give a good showing. Regarding their starting 11, this is what I think they could go with. Venkatesh Iyer and Narayan Jagadisan opening their batting. We've seen with the latter that he's been in great form in List A and first-class cricket. And I think he's at the right kind of space in terms of confidence to take those credentials into his T20 game, opening the batting for KKR. I think he admitted that he wasn't quite ready for the CSK stint a couple of years back, and I thought he didn't fit into the mold of the player they were looking for, that middle-order player. I think he can open the batting in this format. And for KKR, we saw in the previous season where they had to play Sheldon Jackson or Sam Billings, and both those didn't have great seasons and are vulnerable against high pace. I think with the confidence that Jagadisan would be carrying after his very good domestic season, I think this is the right time for him to open the batting for KKR, and it opens up options in the squad as well, where if you've got an in-form Indian keeper batsman, then you don't have the problem that they had in the previous season. Venkatesh Iyer hasn't played too much, didn't have a great season last year, and the season before he was, I would say he was majorly responsible in turning KKR season around and getting them to the final. And despite the fact that he didn't have a great season before, with the absence of Shreyas Iyer, I thought he didn't, in my side, he didn't start. I had Nitish Rana opening the batting and Shreyas Iyer at 3. And with the previous captain in Shreyas Iyer missing at least the first half of this competition, and I reckon he'll probably miss the full competition, Venkatesh Iyer has the opportunity to redeem himself in the opening slot. We saw what he did 2 years ago, and they'll be looking for him to do the same this year. I think Nitish Rana can bat at 3 and Rinku Singh at 4. So you've got overall a good top 4 there. Andre Russell at 5 and David Villa at 6. The reason why I've got David Villa at 6 is because, especially from a bowling point of view, would you want to risk Andre Russell bowling him at the death? Even if he bowls 2 overs, you wouldn't want to take that risk. He hasn't been at his consistent best with the bat off late, and I think you wouldn't want to muddle things too much by asking him to bowl every game. So if he plays as a pure batsman in the side, and you've got David Villa to bat at 6, then he bowls the difficult overs for Namibia and is a great finisher, and has been a great finisher in the PSL as well as for his country. So I think he can bat at number 6. Shardul Thakur at number 7, Sunil Narine at number 8, Umesh Yadav at 9, Lockie Ferguson at 10, Neo can bat, and Varun Chakravarti at 11. I don't know of his injury situation. I thought he didn't bowl badly the previous season, but the batsmen did decode him. They played very good shots off his bowling. I remember when KKR were playing SRH, and I think the first ball, Varun Chakravarti bowled to Rahul Tripathi. It was a decent length, but he drove him for a lofted drive for 6. And I kind of felt sorry for him at that point in time with what we've seen him do in the IPL in 2020 and 2021. I'm backing him to have a great season once again this year, but I think the fitness will be the concern, and I hope he can be fit for at least the majority of the season as he forms a great spin duo along with Sunil Narine. And I think if you're looking at this 11, it isn't as catastrophic as people make it to be, even with the absence of Shreyas Iyer. They've got a good top 4 there, and I think, of course, with the fitness of key players is something that KKR would want to go smoothly for the entirety of the season. And luckily for them, in a general sense, you've got Sunil Narine, who has been fit for the entirety of IPL season. And if Andre Russell doesn't bowl, then I think that will take a lot of the workload off him. And in terms of the other players they've got in the side, you've got Rahmanullah Gurbaz, and maybe you could, if the opening combination doesn't work out, you could play him for one of Venkatesh Iyer or Narayan Jagadisan. But I especially think if this season doesn't work out for Narayan Jagadisan, he would be disappointed considering the form he has been in domestic cricket. And I think as an impact substitution, pretend if you get the runs at a Wankhede Stadium where you know the ball moves around, and if you don't want Andre Russell to bowl, and you don't even need to make him field, because you could use the impact player rule and bring in Vaibhav Arora. And I've mentioned this before, where him and Umesh Yadav bowling in the Wankhede Stadium with the ball moving around will be difficult for any side to face. So I think you don't have to use Andre Russell all that much apart from him with the bat, and I think that would be certainly good for him to focus on his own form and for him to be relatively injury free. And you've got Liton Das and Shakib Al Hasan who will only be available for 1 month, I think. And especially someone like a Liton Das, I think if you had the choice between him and Rahmanullah Gurbaz, and if they were playing for a full season, you would think that Liton Das will start. Rahmanullah Gurbaz has been this explosive player in his team in his career so far, averaging about 25, striking at 150. And the reason why I am skeptical of him starting in terms of my 11, even though he could start, is that a lot of the time we have seen those innings, very breezy innings, be too breezy. At times he just scores a couple of boundaries and then gets out. The IPL is a cut above the rest in terms of difficulty. And a good player, yes, an enjoyable player in terms of watching him bat, but I think whether he'll be able to contribute as much in this kind of a league with the consistency level that he's shown in his career so far would be interesting. So overall, I think KKR do have a decent side even without the likes of Shreyas Iyer, and if they do qualify for the playoffs, which I think they can do if the side functions well, then this will be a great moral victory for them. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share this video with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?